I'm Allie. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Let's go. Let's go should be our new intro.
It should.
Let's go.
I like it.
Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles.
And hello to any new listeners that we might have, because I know that we got a few people on TikTok who said that they never heard of us.
What?
And
just kidding.
I know.
Just
How
kidding.
is that possible?
Just kidding.
Jesus. But I mean, in all honesty, it's like, well, we kind of lie low a little bit, you know, we're not like super active anymore on Instagram. I try to post stuff like occasionally, but it's become more like word of mouth, I think.
But it's also like if you have a podcast, you're not like somebody the other day was like, oh, you're a public. I know you can't do that because you're a public persona or something. I started laughing. I'm like, it's a podcast that nobody would even know who we are. Like, it's not like I have to worry about what I say in public because nobody would even know my last name probably. I mean, they can find it, but it's just funny.
I'm saying the same things on here that I'm saying in public.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, this is me.
Maybe like, I don't want my mom to listen or my family.
Actually, somebody was listening, a listener was listening to an old episode that she brought up, like with a question. She was like, I'm listening to this episode on mom guilt. And so I went back to listen to it again. And it's a long episode. It was when Alyssa was on. But It was like really hilarious. Like I thought about how I'm like, God, we almost seemed lighter back then. Like I literally, I mean, it was about mom guilt, but it was sexually explicit. I'm like, what were we doing?
What were we doing?
You need to go back and listen. It's episode 79. Also like
pandemic. And most of the time when we recorded at that time, we each had like a mimosa and
we were delirious. I think we were delirious too.
The pandemic had us wild in our brains.
I guess so. Like but I did think like, as I was listening, I'm like, wow, we sounded lighter. Like, I almost wonder if life has kind of beat us down.
Life has beat us down. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the episode. Sometimes they're pretty upbeat.
I know. But this one we were particularly upbeat, and we were really, like, some of the stuff we were saying, I'm like, God, I hope no one I love is hearing this. Like, it was really explicit.
I mean, one day, my kids know I have a podcast, but one day if they are like, let's listen to it, I'm going to be like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, there's no way to clear it. You can't like get rid of it completely.
I can't block them. Like I have my mom blocked from my TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does she know?
Yes. Okay. I told her I was. I'm like, I just want the freedom to be able to like do what I want and not have to worry that my mom's watching it, you know?
Yeah.
It even feels weird that my sister follows me on TikTok, but I don't know.
I don't think my family does at all. Like,
but your sister is listening to the podcast, right?
She has, but she wouldn't it's not regular listening for her.
I can imagine your sister
being like,
oh, it's Sunday morning. It's 6 a.m.
She's got better things to do.
The episode's published.
Exactly. No, she's not doing that. Some of my friends do, though.
Like, and that's just it, too. Like, because sometimes, like, someone that I know that's, like, a coworker, like, straight, will be like, oh, I want to listen to your podcast. I'm like, I don't think you do.
Exactly. Although it
really
could be,
sometimes
I do think though that it is relatable. You know, as we used to worry about like does it go on too long? Like how long can you talk about this subject? But it is applicable to anyone in a transition. I'm a little under the weather right now.
I mean,
but yeah, anyone in a life transition.
True. And that reminds me, I did have one of my straight friends who's gone through a divorce was listening to some episodes. And she was like, oh, like this is so relatable. Like I love this. I think it's like, yeah, anyone that's going through a transition in life can relate to a lot of the things that we're experiencing because like just in general, to get a divorce, there's mom guilt with that, you know,
100%.
There's blending of families.
But are there vibrators? Like that episode is like, it's supposed to be about mom guilt. And all of a sudden we're talking about vibrators. We're talking about, I'm like, what in the world? Alyssa's whole job was to keep us on track.
Keep us on track. I know.
Exactly. I'm like, this went way off the rails.
That was one of the reasons why we had Alyssa on, was to guide us, because I think we both kind of have a little bit of ADD and forget what we're talking about sometimes. We end up on like some tangent.
Yeah.
Kind of like right now. We're supposed to be talking about the TikTok drama that's going on.
Yeah, tell me about the TikTok drama, because I'm not on TikTok.
I know, and it's so disappointing. And I guess I'll say another thing too about TikTok is a lot of people don't really understand what the app is about. They think it's like this thing for kids. They think like China is taking all of our data, whatever. I don't think they're doing anything more than what Facebook and Instagram is doing with your data. But on top of that, it's not just little kids like dancing and like teens and stuff like that. It's like full grown adults sharing stories and sharing advice. And I mean, you can learn about anything from like nutrition to like baking skills, mental health.
Are they lengthy videos? Like, how long are the videos?
I think they had it where the max video was 3 minutes.
Okay.
And they just did to where people can make 10-minute long videos now. But the thing is, like, you get on there and it starts kind of understanding like what sort of content you want to see. Yeah. We'll show more of that, you know.
But isn't that like, to your point about the Chinese? Isn't that the issue though?
Well, yeah, like that they have the technology that can figure you out really easily in a way that like Instagram hasn't figured out yet. They have not figured out that.
Instagram's owned by an American company, whereas I think people are scared that if China has it, they have access to all that data. They can ask ByteDance,
yeah,
to turn over all that information, therefore making what we like, what we do. It's like giving them so much information about us.
But like why does China care that I watch lesbian TikTok?
Here's why. Here's what I'm not saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but here's why. Because what if they like subtly are influencing our youth and having a big influence on our elections or controlling what you see in a way that,
I can see that. Like, if yes, there's election interference, but that happened on Facebook.
I know, you're right.
I think it's all like how you handle it and what you put out there yourself and what you believe.
I know
that comes across, and educating yourself on like not everything you see on the internet is true.
Right. Is there another thing I read about like in China, they only let their children be on, there's like something where they're only on there like maybe 2 hours a week, or it was something obscene where like those kids aren't getting all the screen time that our kids are getting in America, and how it's just another way that they're like, let's just dumb down America and just make ours smarter and smarter.
Because I think it was in China that I've seen these videos where the kids are very independent and they actually go out like on their own at a very young age. And if I remember right, like the kids that are unattended, and I if I'm wrong about this being in China, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure it was China, but they wear like certain like a yellow hat so that if the adults see the kids in the yellow hat, they know to like kind of look out for them.
Oh.
They know that they're unattended, but they're going out and like maybe they're going to school or they're running to the grocery store for their parents. And they're given like so much more freedom to go about.
That's pretty amazing. I like that.
It is. Yeah. I'm like, if we did that in the US, I'd be terrified my kid would be kidnapped in like no time.
Right. No, it's true.
So,
that's interesting. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, they want to make, but maybe it's like TikTok. We're going to get the American kids just glued to this all day, and then we're going to pull ours out of it and just teach them math.
And teach them math.
And then let's see what happens.
All right. So circling back, I'm not going to name this creator just because I feel like if you've been on lesbian TikTok, you can probably figure out who it is. This has happened within the past few days. Essentially, this creator had a lot of followers. They have been out for, as far as I understood, since their teens, maybe early 20s, and were creating videos for people like late in life that were coming into their own sexuality. And I didn't really follow this person closely, but I suddenly start seeing videos from multiple women saying this creator and I had a relationship, and she was very controlling. And she was very like hot and cold and was critical of my body, my appearance, or like they met in person and she had like basically done like kind of like the love bombing thing where it's like, oh, like you're so great and I could see a future with you, but then like does the pullback after that. But this happened, at first I saw it with like one person and then there was like two people. Now I believe the numbers are upwards of 20.
Wow.
That women have come forward and said, yes, this person did the same thing to me. And the thing that really struck me about this was, one, that someone is taking advantage of these people who are in a vulnerable spot.
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And two, that someone is trying to guide them through an experience that they have never lived.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there now. Like, I know that when we started this podcast, there weren't that many people sharing their stories of coming out later. So many more people have started to do so. There's people on YouTube, there's people on TikTok. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Like, I love it. I think the more people that come out and talk about this, the safer it feels for other people to come out.
Definitely.
But I also think that someone who hasn't lived this experience can't really understand the layers that come with it. The coming out to your family, your partner, husband, boyfriend, whatever, how it impacts your kids, how your life is completely upended by having to get a divorce and start over again.
Right.
My whole point of this is there's plenty of people to follow out there and to get this advice from that have lived this experience. But also what struck me is the fact that this is similar to what we experience and what we always talk about with our catalyst and like,
so true. Like everybody has an opinion. I do recall like my catalyst having opinions on stuff on my divorce or on my even stuff with the kids, like how that's going to go. And I'm thinking, what? That always like infuriated me.
And one person did share too that like, you know, initially they were seeing this creator and as part of an open relationship with her husband. And when it led eventually to getting a divorce, that the creator was like kind of giddy about this, like excited, like that she had like captured another new lesbian.
And maybe are we sure gross. She wasn't trying? It is gross, but are we sure she wasn't trying to be funny or like?
Maybe. I mean, there could be some humor behind that, but you know, and like that's kind of like why I feel like we will offer like there's alternatives to this, at least in the meantime while you figure things out, you know. Like not everyone that's going through this is going to be like the next day, like, oh, I'm a lesbian.
Yeah, here I am. Now I'm gay.
Like, it's not that simple.
No.
And I know that some people can find a way to kind of work this out with their partner where they have an open relationship. Like there's multiple scenarios that work for different people. What worked for us was to get a divorce and be fully out.
And that, but let's be clear too. Like when we first were coming into this, you know, this realization, we weren't ready to pick up and leave. We were, you know, both of us went to therapy kind of with the idea of like, how can I fix my marriage?
Yeah.
And so I think there's different, I mean, when I think about group and I think about all the women that came in from 30 years old to 60 years old, almost everyone starts with, I really don't plan on leaving. Like my goal is to figure out a way to stay in this marriage and live, you know, this truth or live with the truth, but don't act on it. You're in a committed marriage. You're not going to, but then it's like, as you go through the journey, you start to learn more about yourself. You get more comfortable. You've had more conversations till you start to feel like that hope overcomes the fear and you realize you can still have that friendship with your ex-husband, but it feels good to move on.
And you're so right. So many of us, I mean, if I remember what I came into that room thinking, it was that I think I might have even said that I was bi at that time. And I was just trying to figure it out, like in a way to make it work. I didn't plan. I think we were separated at that time though. But I honestly just didn't know what was going to happen next.
No. And I look and I think about like listeners we've had on who have said the same thing or are in the process right now where they're, you know, do they think maybe someday they'll end up divorced? Maybe, but it's like not even on the horizon yet. So. And
I know that so often like people there's such a fear when you first realize, and you are like held in this one spot because of that fear. It's paralyzing.
It is paralyzing.
It takes a minute to get out of that, like to like slowly feel like you can start to move your body again and think like, okay, like you know, I'm gay and I'm going to have to do something about this. Right. I'm going to have to talk to some people about this and have some hard conversations.
And as you have those conversations, you start to just grow as a person, which is, I think, why two things. One is the catalyst having opinions about your divorce settlement or what you are, your label, or gatekeeping the community, or all the things that happen that can be volatile at the beginning. All you really need is a solid friend validating what you're going through and listening. And if that's your catalyst who's, you know, can validate you and be in that space, that's a beautiful thing. But oftentimes that isn't how it shakes out. They're having their own struggle with dealing with this woman that's trying to come out and has this man in her life and children and responsibilities and the fear of losing you. You know, Melisa, you're going to go out to the bars. You're this new lesbian. And holy shit, what if I lose her? She's brand new. She's excited. She's out on the scene. She's meeting women. You know, they don't want you to be exposed in that way.
And I can, like, to my first girlfriend's credit, you know, see that. That's what was going on in her head. That's why it was like kind of panicky at some times. It's scary to her. She wanted to keep me.
Yeah, of course.
And here I am growing and coming into my own and talking about actually getting a divorce and wanting to be out in the gay community more. I think, you know, it was very unnerving to her and she didn't know how to deal with it. It did feel like, though, like to look back, like it felt like gatekeeping of the community. I wanted to go out to the gay bars and see what that was like. I'd never really been to a lesbian bar before. It was very much like, okay, we can go, but we're home by 11. We're missing out on all the real stuff that's happening.
Right.
And the times that we did go to like a pride party, you know, there was a bunch of lesbians in there and it was very much like a fight was prompted.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
She needed your attention.
To get me out of there.
Yeah. But I mean, if in all fairness, like, would you say it's so layered and complicated that it's like, but you are coming out. It is new. It is exciting. Would you say, if you're totally honest now, and you can be, that there was a little part of you that was kind of looking around?
Oh, absolutely.
So was she right in?
I mean, she was a little, but I mean, I will say
you wouldn't have cheated, but was she right
that
in
I wasn't
her fear?
like looking. I wasn't looking to leave. I can't say that. I was just curious to see like what the community looked like.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's kind of what kept me from realizing I was gay in the first place, was this stereotype I had in my head of what a lesbian looked like.
Yeah.
And thinking that's not me. That can't be me.
The classic gym teacher from Glee.
Exactly. Like that in my mind was a lesbian with like a few hot ones sprinkled in, you know, a few Portia de Rossi's here and there, but they were a rare find that only Ellen could land.
Is that why you decided to become a comedian?
Yes, exactly.
Nailed it. I'm
far nicer than Ellen, apparently.
Allegedly.
Now everyone says that Ellen's a dick.
I don't believe it.
You know, I find it hard to believe that she is that big of a giant asshole, like behind the scenes, when she's done all this other shit that's like great.
Here's the thing too, like the people who are saying she's a giant asshole are people that work for her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
some people that have like encountered her like behind the scenes, like as guests on the show. And then there was a guy who I think was like a piano player or something, like came on kind of like the same situation like Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Like was kind of like up and coming. And he said that he had a bad experience with her, that she kind of like fell off, like made a lot of promises to him and then fell off. But I mean, I think that happens in general a lot in the entertainment industry, where people make you promises and then it doesn't follow through.
Or they think they can do it, but they can't. Well, you're always going to have people that, like, if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong, like, in my opinion. Like, to me, it's like if you're a creative person and you're out there and you have people working for you, if everybody likes you, then to me, you're not really a leader. You have to be dynamic and making decisions that sometimes people don't like. Like, I definitely feel like I'm a boss and there are people that disagree with me creatively sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's my company. I'm going to take your input. Sometimes I agree with it. Sometimes I don't. And I could see
But are you a dick about it in the process?
Never. But couldn't you see somebody maybe walking away and being like, Allie's such a dick. She didn't even, I had this better idea. She didn't run with it.
Or I asked her for a picture and she said no.
Yeah, there you go. Like, I guess, I don't know. Like, my point is this, that I could see where you're going to have a few haters. Like, it's just the way it is.
Well, and I think too, with like celebrities, it does get like tiresome, if you're trying to just go to the grocery store and you've got someone up your butt wanting to do a selfie every time you go down a different aisle, like that can get annoying. Although Ellen has enough money to like pay someone to go to the grocery store for her.
And so you could just smile, but I don't fault. I think you're always going to have a few, especially when you get to the top, there's always going to be a third of people won't like you.
I don't know if I can handle that.
I know you got it. That is actually true. I'm going to be here for you in that time. And I'm going to tell you what I say to my children is if everybody likes you, you're really doing something wrong. Because
although I don't think everyone likes me by any means. I'm not for everyone, and that's okay.
You're definitely for me, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Same.
Good. But yeah, so I'm defending all the assholes today, I guess.
I know you are, but
we have to have the other side.
We have to have the other side. And I think that's a good point. Like I am purposely not mentioning this creator's name.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to call them out in this space because there are 2-3 sides to every story. And this creator may just be trying to find someone for themselves and it not working out.
You got to kiss a lot of toads.
Yeah. He kisses a lot of toads. Oh, no one's a toad in this situation.
No
that's the other thing. A lot of these girls are super cute.
I'm sure.
What's going on here? There's plenty of other women that you can talk to.
But I think the main point we're trying to make is that when you are coming out, everybody does try to give you advice, and I do think that sometimes it is difficult. Like we've talked about in the gay community, when we first were coming out, we felt a sense of like our catalysts were gatekeeping the community, like telling you who you could meet, or even like on my Instagram, I remember like she didn't go through and tell me who not to follow, but it would be like a red flag to her if I was like, she might make a mean joke about if I'm following some person that really probably was threatening to her. So I remember
someone you knew in real life.
Yeah, like if it was just like, why are you following her? Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and like the whole label thing was confusing to me for the longest time, before I even came into group or anything. Because at first I was like, well, I'm bisexual. Like the first pride that I went to.
That's just because you didn't want to say the word lesbian.
That too. I did have issues with that word. My first pride that I went to with my first girlfriend, I was like telling people that I was bi. But even that was like, am I? Like
you knew it as you were saying it.
That it wasn't real.
But do you think you needed to do that? Like sometimes I think I have to live with it.
I think that's just it. Yeah. I needed to go through that space to get to where I am.
What is it about me that I think bi seems even harder to say? Bi is like that to me in my head felt like more deviant.
That's your biphobia.
I know, but I also have gay phobia. I also had homophobia. So why was bi harder than lesbian?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So you're going through your process. You're bi.
But also like the thing that really helped me at the very beginning was learning of the label of not straight.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that one just was like, okay, that's what I need right now.
I don't know what I am, but I don't know
what I
straight.
am. But yeah, that label of not straight really kind of just helped me be at peace for a moment. Yeah. And feel like I don't have to like have any answers right now.
Or say the scary word.
To say the scary word. Yeah. But still 5 years later, I'm like, lesbian? But it's not, and we've made this point before, when we were growing up, lesbian was a cut down. Like that was an insult.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing you wanted to be called in middle school was a lesbian.
That's true. And now it's like, it's totally cool.
Yeah. Like if someone called me a lesbian now and I was in the 7th grade, I'd be like, am I?
Yeah.
That'd be neat.
Yeah, exactly. Like you've come full circle.
Right. Now
what else? Give me some other examples of things that happen in the early days with catalysts or even with the gay community in general that might have pushed you back in the closet, set you back, or red flags.
Well, that's funny that you say that because I have had a lot of comments of people saying like, oh, I came out in my 20s and I dated women, but it was so toxic that I went back. And I think that's just it. Like in these first relationships, there is that power dynamic that's happening.
No, totally. And maybe you pick people that are more they're top powerful people because you almost like need that to push you out of the nest.
I think so. Like you do need some push at that time.
Yeah.
And maybe you are picking people who are very confident in their sexuality and very confident in who they are.
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of like an idol situation happening. Like, oh, I want to be like that strong and confident myself.
So I'm going to catch a wave with this person.
Yeah, you're kind of looking up to them in a way and really hanging on to everything that they're saying. It's easy to get caught up in it.
It's true. And it's the opposite of your life. Like, I remember Jamie telling me when we were hanging out, she met my catalyst as friends. Like, we're just in a casual space. And I remember her, like, kind of saying to me, you pick people that are, like, the total opposite in some ways of your world. Because it's just, like, it's appealing to you. It's compelling to, I was married to the Boy Scout. We've got these 3 kids. We're living in this safe house. The kids, I carpool. I'm the room mom. And then I pick somebody who's wildly different from that because it's compelling. It's like draws me over there.
Yeah. And I think in some ways she kind of represented who you wanted to be.
Yeah. At that moment, maybe it was like
at that moment.
Yeah. She represented an escape from my trap.
And I think that's kind of like what my first girlfriend represented was this like woman who's like doing everything on her own, raising 2 kids without much help.
Yep.
And, has a great job and is confident in herself.
Lived in the city where you wanted to
live in the city. It was so cool to me.
Yeah.
She was doing all the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
I think there is kind of like that,
moth
you
to a flame.
Latch on.
Catch that wave, and then but then you get there and talk about that, say more, because it's like I think really arrive,
like after and that's to say too that a lot of the time those first relationships do work out, and that relationship might have worked out had we both been in like a healthier space.
Yeah,
I'm glad that it went the way that it did eventually. Like I would have liked it to have ended a little bit more peacefully, I guess. But that's also like the experience I needed to have at the time. And maybe like those people that have been through this experience with this TikTok creator can take away like those good things that came from that relationship. Maybe it did push them out of the nest a little bit. Maybe they learned some lessons. Totally. And maybe they can also look at the qualities that person had that maybe they want to emulate one day.
I think that's 100% true. And I think you need those different experiences. I think, Goldilocks, it's like, I think of it like for a lot of people, it's 3 experiences. It might be more, but it's like Goldilocks. You have, the wild catalyst, then you overcompensate, the pendulum swings way back to another person who's too giving, too, acquiesces to everything you need. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work either. So the pendulum then swings to the middle, and that's sort of where you end up landing. That may not be true for everybody, but I've seen that story play out multiple times where it's like you have to have these lessons, and it sometimes presents in three categories. Like
if I had met Marina even the year prior that we did meet, I would not have been ready.
No.
Like I wouldn't have been who I am now. Mm-mm. So I think, like take the lessons that you learn from these first relationships, use those lessons for your future.
Yep.
And also just be open to the fact that there's other people out there.
Right.
There's other creators. There's other stories to hear. When we were coming out, like I said, there wasn't a ton of information. There's a plethora of information now.
Right.
TikTok, YouTube, Reddit. There's other podcasts that you can listen to.
More communities now.
More communities. Yeah. Get out there and find and make friends. Make friends.
That's the biggest thing. Build that freaking community because they have friends who have friends who have friends.
Exactly.
So you're the best at that, Melissa. Like literally, you show up and do it. Let me ask you one more thing, and then I know you got to run. Do you feel like too, like one thing I did at the beginning, and I actually talked to a friend today about this who feels like she does this a little bit, but like where sometimes you make excuses for people, or like you want it so badly in the early days that you can overlook things. Maybe not that they're a jerk. It could just be that they're not smart enough, or they're not engaging enough, or they're not, but you want it so badly that you're like, it's probably just me. I really do like them. This is good. But you keep like almost like making excuses because you don't want to be alone. So you're kind of willing to settle, yet you're getting this new rewrite.
I think that happens a lot. We feel like our dating pool is so limited that you just kind of take what you can get.
Yeah, like, I found someone, lock it down.
Found someone, I gotta lock it down. They're good. They fit a lot of my criteria.
Yeah.
This works.
I got 9 out of 10. I'm gonna take it.
And like that's you need more.
Yeah.
You didn't do all this to not have all the things.
That's it. And I think sometimes it's hard to face that reality. Like if you're still wondering, it's probably not the right person.
If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Yep. And then one more thing, doubt means don't.
Doubt means don't. Ooh, I like that.
Yep. And I love if it's not a hell yeah.
Solid advice.
Yep. We should end with that. If it's not a hell yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. And again, to anyone new listening, I encourage you to go back and try to start from the beginning. I know that our audio quality sucked at first.
Are you really encouraging them to go to the beginning? I discourage it.
I think there's a lot of like good stuff there. And I mean, we do kind of like repeat some of our content a little bit because
I'd like to go back and revisit the mom guilt episode, like really redo it now.
And not talk so much about sex.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about parenting and we end up talking about sex.
It's go listen.
What's wrong with us?
Why? So you want people to go back to the beginning, but yeah,
I do. I think it's helpful to like go back, but it is. I know it's kind of hard because we were literally recording into an iPad. I didn't edit a goddamn thing. I didn't have the ability to edit.
Yeah.
I think it was around. I can't remember if it was episode 40 or 60 that things started 60. To like change because that's when we brought on Alyssa and had a lot more help. I would say either start at the beginning or around 40 to 60.
60.
One of those.
That's 60.
Is it 60?
40 I think is still bad. So yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
So yeah, just give us grace in those early days. It's kind of a metaphor for life, I think.
It really is. It is. In your coming out journey.
Exactly. All right, my friends.
All right. We'll be back next week.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandallie@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Allie, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.